everyone, Naula Majorin Bole for isinijurutv, a Ghanaian correspondent, and today the news is all about the health sector and the radiographers in particular. Let's tune in for more. Thanks for choosing isinijurutv. We start off with the security updates from the Ugandan People's Defense Force, who gives us the latest from the Operation Suja against the ADF rebels in Congo, and an update on the disarmament program of cat racers in Karamoja.
On the 14th of February 2022, ADF remnants that were terrorizing the masses between Kamango and Nobili in Congo were neutralized by the joint forces. Results: 4 terrorists were put out of action, 2 submachine guns, 1 RPG bomb, 1 walkie-talkie, and 7 goats and various domestic appliances were charged from the terrorists. The rest of the terrorists ran in this area. It is now calmness along that stretch in DRC. Secondly, ADF that had entrenched themselves in the impenetrable Virunga forest, creating what the Congolese were terming as triangle of death, have been dislodged, thereby fleeing in the southern direction towards Rwenzori Mountains, and others towards the northwestern direction of Ngumuhimbo, Mapipa, Machini Hills in Irumu territory. We dislodged ADF from Boga airfield, which had been turned into a killing field and a place for abductions. Joint forces are now taking charge of Boga town, Chambi, and Kainama, 80 kilometers away from the border, a sign of relief for the people of Congo who have been terrorized for a long time. 4, joint forces now hunting ADF who are fleeing towards Kasindi, Mutwanga, Ben route. This is the 3rd axis for Operation Shuja. For the last 2 weeks since UPDF deployment, all along this route, traffic flow has more than doubled, trucks moving smoothly and fettered, unlike before when the ADF could burn trucks and abduct occupants. 5, the road from Burasi to Boga in the 3rd axis, which was completely impassable, especially motorized mobility, is being worked on. This route will shorten lines of communication to our forward bases as well as people to and from Bunia who used a longer route and risky distance of crossing Lake Albert to Ntoroko. 6, a ferry at Haivale landing site in the Rwebisengu, Ntoroko district, is now operational, crossing military personnel and logistics as well as civilian, cargo, and traders. This is the 3rd approach route or axis of Operation Shuja. 7, own troops are currently conducting active defense activities in all the 3 sectors of operations. These are Sector 1, Nobili Kamango, Mukakati to River Semuliki Bridge, which is K51, commanded by Colonel James Kasule of the 111 Brigade Command. Sector 2, Burasi Boga to Kainama, commanded by Colonel Ben Serwada, the 333 Brigade Commander. And then Sector 3, Kasindi to Beni, commanded by Colonel Columbus Tumwine, the 222 Brigade Command. The number of dead ADF is still not clear. Where UPDF is operating, 3 were killed during the first phase, and 4 killed on 14th February 2022, making a total of 7. I shift gear to an update on Operation Usalama kwa wote. Guns recovered so far, 4, making a total of 159 guns recovered since the operation started. Ammunition recovered, 69, making a total of 1,636 ammunitions recovered since the operation started. Cattle recovered, 712. Goats and sheep recovered, 186. Warriors arrested, 19. Warriors put out of action, 11. Warriors prosecuted, 7. In the dawn hours of 18th February, at about 0300 hours, we lost 1 soldier, Private Okech Calvin, aged 55, of 43rd Infantry Battalion, when he was on patrol. This followed a shot that was fired at the foot patrol when they were ambushed by the Karamajong warriors in the suspected general area of Adoro Parish, Morulem sub-parish of Abimu district. Private Okech Calvin Oneka later succumbed to gunshot wounds while on medical evacuation. May you so rest in peace.
Healthcare professionals under the umbrella group Society of Radiography of Uganda have given the government an ultimatum of 21 days to incorporate them under the scheme of services of medical personnel. According to the president of the Society of Radiography of Uganda, Joe Bambali, radiographers have faced many challenges over failure by the government to pass the scheme of service incorporating radiographers at the bachelor's, master's and PhD levels.
In Uganda, the training of radiographers started way back in the 50s, where it was at a certificate level, and this was followed in the 60s, whereby they started training diploma levels. This took a long spell, whereby most radiographers who wanted to upgrade used to leave the country, go to countries like South Africa for upgrading their studies. But in the early 2000s, the degree program was started in Uganda, whereby people started upgrading from the diploma level to the degree level in the various spheres of medical imaging. This ranges from ultrasound, then MRI, and nuclear medicine, then even radiotherapy. People went to various countries to do degrees and masters in those spheres of medical imaging. However, for a long spell, we have been trying to advocate for the scheme of service of radiographers. This has faced very many challenges in terms of drafting the scheme of service, which we did as an association, and we submitted through our council, which is the Allied Health Profession Council. We submitted to government, that was to the Ministry of Health, and it took various steps up to the top management level, where we expected it to be approved and then sent to public service for further scrutiny so that it can be enacted as a law to have radiographers at degree level practice in government hospitals. But this has faced many challenges, despite the fact that the government is training radiographers to have degrees, but they can't employ them as a country. This is making radiographers leave the country and go to various countries such as UK, South Africa. We have even other radiographers in the neighboring countries like Kenya, Tanzania. They're all there because there are no jobs of qualified radiographers at a degree level. And this is also affecting the private service when it comes to giving out salaries, whereby the government is not recruiting the degree holders. So as a challenge, we have decided to come together and try to meet the relevant stakeholders, that is to say the Ministry of Health commissioners responsible. We have also advocated to meet the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Health, which has been in vain, despite the fact that there was a directive made by the President in 2007 to have degree holders enrolled into public service. So due to these challenges and various people not taking on the responsibility of seeing how radiographers at degree level can join government, we have agreed as an association that we should lay down our tools if this is not put into action in 21 days from now.
In case the radiographers put down their tools, or if we put down our tools, it will really affect a Ugandan there who is going to come to the hospital, because we are the key people at diagnosing illnesses. For example, if someone gets like an accident, the first thing they request for is like maybe an X-ray or an ultrasound scan. So if these key people are not in the hospital to perform these examinations, then it will really be very bad to anybody who comes to the hospital. So we plead to the government to really put into consideration so that our scheme of service is considered, because we don't want to lay down these tools because we know the magnitude, how bad it will be to the people who come to the hospital.
I think the public will bear with us if our demands are not met, and we intend to have a strike. This will start with the government workers, and the government workers will have skeleton staff, which will be only the principal radiographers, who are only limited to the national referral, meaning that the general hospitals will remain with no radiographer.
As radiography professionals in Uganda, the scheme of service is not the only challenge we are facing right now, but there are very, very many more challenges.
So we are very key people in the hospital. In fact, most people relate to us as the eye of medicine, because without us, even the doctors can't treat or they can't see what's inside the human body.
We are not represented well in the Ministry of Health. So we need the Ministry of Health to have a position of an assistant commissioner in charge of radiography services. And this will go a long way in streamlining the radiology services, both in public and in private practice. Other challenges we have is that the government doesn't follow the set programs when it comes to repair and maintenance of machines. And yet we know that for every machine to work very well, it has to be maintained and it has to be repaired. So in most cases, when there is breakdown of these machines, there is no repair. So it means that for those radiographers who are working in government, the quality of service delivery is affected, and yet we want to offer the best to our patients.
If our demands are not met in 1 week, we will also pull out the principal radiographers to remain with no radiographer or imaging personnel at national and regional referrals. So we ask the government to expedite the process of our scheme of service and then honor the presidential directive of having radiographers at degree level, employed by public service, and also harmonize the salaries of radiographers with other health cadres so that we can work well motivated to push the health sector forward.
In the other news, the Parliamentary Health Commission of Uganda, through its head Dr. Charles Ayume and the Ministry of Health, embraces family planning research data collected by the Performance Monitoring for Action. The data collected in this performance is assessing the progress of the targets set in the Family Planning 2030 commitments and helps the government in making informed decisions.
Ladies and gentlemen, what are the main findings from this survey? I'll start with a key indicator. Over the last few years, we've been presenting results for the CPR, or the contraceptive prevalence rate for married women, the proportion of married women currently using a method of family planning. This year, I want to present two indicators. One, for all women, that's a more conservative indicator. It includes all women, married, unmarried, sexual active or not, so it's a more conservative indicator. The reason we are tracking this out this year is because when you look at the costed implementation plan 2, the focus is on all women. So the indicator is for all women. We don't want to leave anyone behind. You had Professor Roda speaking about equity. You don't want to leave anyone behind, so we don't want to focus on married women alone because they all have the needs. So today we want to present to you the CPR for all women, the proportion or percentage of women who are using the method of family planning who are aged between 15 to 49. And the CPR in this survey is 40%. So 40% of all women are using a method of family planning. And 34% are using a modern method of family planning at the time when we did this survey in September, between September and November of last year. And the traditional methods are standing at 5.9%. And when you see, we've just picked out only 4 survey rounds. We have so many survey rounds before, but we picked the most recent 4. And you see the trend that we've been rising for all women from 34.7 to 40%. We've not been presenting in the dissemination here, but we've had all this data in the background before. So that is the all methods contraceptive prevalence rate for all women, 40%, and 34% for modern methods of family planning. So, breaking this a little bit further down, we've seen, of course, the 34% for all for MCPR or modern. MCPR is modern contraceptive prevalence rate, and then the 5.9 for traditional. Total together form your 40%. But we have a proportion of women, of all women, who in the survey, when we ask questions about whether they want to have a child soon, within the next 2 years, they say no to that question. But then, when we ask if they are using anything to avoid getting pregnant, they say no. So those women, together with those who are currently pregnant, but when we ask if the last pregnancy they are carrying, the pregnancy they are carrying was intended, they tell us it was unintended. So if you have an unintended pregnancy currently that you're carrying, and all you are not using any, and all you don't want to have a child within the next 2 years, but you're not using any method of family planning, those two combined together form what we call the unmet need. So this is technically computed on our side, but based on those questions and a series of qualifications for you to come to this. So 15.3% of all women in this country, 15 to 49, have an unmet need for family planning. If we use, and then, okay, let me first explain this. Then we have 44.8% who have fertility desires. They are intending to have a child within the next 2 years, or they are currently pregnant by choice. So some of the ones in the red are currently pregnant but unintended. But the ones here in the 44.8, some are pregnant by choice, or they want to have a child within the next 2 years. So those ones have fertility desires. So we don't expect them to be using family planning. So if they are not using, it is okay. Because if they get a child, that child will not be, unintended, unwanted, because they are, within their window, very recent window. So, a near future window, sorry. So those are fertility desires. They are still high. We don't want to put a number, a percentage to how many women should have fertility desires at any one point. But of course, when you have such a large number, it means we shouldn't be surprised that we are adding on what, 1.7, 1.8 million births a year, because we have so many women who are intending to have a child within the next 2 years. Now, some of them may have 1, 2, 3, 4 children, they are intending to have a fourth. Some of them may have 8, they are intending to have a ninth, willingly. So this is a matter of ideation, and Dr. Sekamate loves this ideation, I know. So if I want to take you through a little bit of the stages of change model, I think as implementing partners, we want to focus, the lowest hanging fruits are those who have an unmet need. If you focus on the stages of change, these have some sort of contemplation. Probably they are easy to attract to become users. There are these who have fertility desires. Some of them are pre-contemplators. I have 8 children, I'm focusing on the 9th, I have no problem with it. When you ask me, do you want to have a 9th child, I say yes, and I'm okay. So you're not going to drag me to use it, but then the information you provide probably will move me from pre-contemplation to contemplation. So you can move women from the fertility desires to unmet need. That is probably the first stop. Some of them will jump directly to use. That is a winner if we do that. But that is hard. You probably move them to contemplation to think, maybe I should use, then focus on what should I use, where should I get it. And that's where we come in to give as much information as possible. Move them from pre-contemplation to contemplation, and then ultimately to action and continuation of the behavior, which will be the MCPR.
I've seen that we are concentrating on family planning, but very little benefits of development are coming out. And I wanted us, since Parliament is here, but also the Minister of Health were represented with several implementing partners and development partners as well, to know that family planning is also a development issue. And I think Betty touched on this. I know she gave me instructions to, Betty dares to give me instructions what to say and what to say. But I also know that she wanted to speak about the demographic dividend concept. And she put it in a good way by talking about the parish development model. As you know, Uganda is moving into this. We have a great opportunity. We need to go down to the local level and engage our communities so that we can start making a difference. Family planning and reproductive health, Dr. Mugahi, Richard Mugahi, you know very well, you have worked the districts. Since about 10 years ago, 2012, 2013, Uganda has started witnessing the demographic transition process. Both fertility and mortality are coming down together. That is when a country enters the window of opportunity. And so I wanted to say that this is an important thing, and we need to continue linking reproductive health and family planning, and especially use of contraception, and making sure that our CPR goes up. And working with the Minister of Health, working with the Minister of Education and others, that is the way that we are going to make sure we do big impact on the education, on the health, and eventually the country exploiting its demographic dividends.
We are very happy as the Parliamentary Committee on Health to always be invited for these engagements. It really sharpens the way we articulate issues in Parliament. And I must say, we really want a Parliament that articulates issues based on evidence and very strong data, not one where we go and debate based on emotions and political sentiments. I think that is very dangerous for the direction of the country, where we are on the floor of Parliament just arguing and debating based on emotions and retrospective beliefs. So for us, it's very important that we're invited for such engagements where we come to listen to evidence and data, what's in the field and what are the best practices, so that when we go there, because we do not only represent our constituencies, our political constituencies. The health sector, like I keep on telling many people, is a constituency. So I have one foot in my political constituency, but I am also duty-bound to represent the views of the health workers on the floor of Parliament. We are very humbled, and we shall continue coming to listen to words of wisdom whenever we're invited, so that we can translate this, because this is where data is produced, but then policy, fortunately or unfortunately, is discussed on the floor of Parliament. So if you do not arm us well, then we do a poor job on the floor. thank you very much for having us over, and we pledge total support where possible. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Keep liking our handles.